Welcome to the Real News Network. I'm Gregory Wilpert, coming to you from Quito, Ecuador. Last Monday evening, a large truck careened into the Christmas market in the center of Western Berlin, killing 11 people and wounding at least 48 others. Also, the truck's original driver was found dead inside of the truck. The person who drove the truck, though, and who was responsible for the deaths, fled on foot and is still at large. This was the first time in almost decades that Germany has experienced such an attack, and it was a shock to many Germans. ISIS, or the Islamic State, issued a statement claiming responsibility for the attack. After first falsely arresting a Pakistani refugee, the police later released him, and the Minister of the Interior of the state of North Rhine-Westphalia announced that a Tunisian citizen is now wanted for the attack. This is what he had to say.
Im Juni 2016 wurde der Asylantrag durch das Bundesamt für Migration und Flüchtlinge abgelehnt, obwohl der Lebensmittelpunkt des abgelehnten Asylbewerbers in Berlin war, wurde die Abschiebung Absprache mit der eigentlich zuständigen Ausländerbehörde Berlins aus verfahrensökonomischen Gründen durch die Ausländerbehörde in Kleve betrieben. Der Mann konnte aber nicht abgeschoben werden, weil er keine gültigen Ausweispapiere hatte.
So joining us now from Berlin, Germany, to take a closer look at the repercussions of this attack is Lars Bretthauer. Lars is a German political scientist and a member of the critical social science network Reflect. Thanks, Lars, for being with us today.
Hello.
So, Lars, first of all, Germany has politically been going through a kind of a rightward trend recently, with regional elections giving the far-right xenophobic alternative for Germany a significant presence in regional parliaments over the past year. Also, Chancellor Angela Merkel has been attacked from the right for her support for allowing refugees into the country. What effect do you think this recent attack in Berlin is going to have on the country's political discourse, given that they're accusing somebody who had applied for a refugee status?
I think that it's a bit early to say exactly. I talk to some friends and colleagues these days, and so far I would say that the liberals and left-wing forces are very strong at the moment. Not to get a racist discourse very strong here. There were remarks from the Alternative for Germany, racist remarks about Arabic or Turkish people being behind this attack, but this was refused by the liberal press. And like in general, the atmosphere is quite relaxed. For my part, I work on surveillance, and I was afraid for the last 10 years for this moment to happen, because I didn't know if we have a right-wing wave of comments and laws and attacks, and we have these attacks yet. But this truck attack is not something very special at the moment, I would say.
So, I mean, I did see some statements and some politicians saying that surveillance should be increased. So since this is something that you've worked on, I mean, do you think that it will actually have an impact on the issue of surveillance in Germany?
Not so much, because the positions on surveillance are very clear, and so far the conservatives couldn't gain any win or land through the truck attack. It's their normal claim to increase surveillance, while the liberal and left-wing forces are trying to block that. And we have the same situation, and we had the same discourses after the attacks on Charlie Hebdo in Paris, after the attacks in Copenhagen, and it's a quite ritualized discourse here in Germany at the moment, and it also works now on this truck attack.
So let's look at the other forces in Germany. That is, the German political spectrum has become increasingly fragmented over the past few years, with 3 or 4 parties being represented in parliament 30 years ago, but now for elections that are scheduled to be in mid-2017, it could be as many as 6 or 7 parties in the Bundestag. How are the left parties, that is center of left, such as the Social Democrats, the Greens, and the Left Party, dealing with this particular type of attack and the refugee question more generally? Are they able to counter the discourse from the right?
I can't say exactly because there wasn't like an open period of argument and opposition, so that the left couldn't like mark their positions. It's more like a time of grief. I looked at all the newspapers today that I could get, and even the conservative newspapers were like really, like Bild Zeitung, the biggest one, they titled with only fear and then like certain facts, but it was not very racist as they are normally. And other newspapers just said, okay, it's a time of grief. You saw Chancellor Merkel in a black dress and other politicians in a black dress. And this is what is the situation at the moment. It's more grief and less that the left-wing forces need to counter something from the right.
And what about, sorry.
No. And the few things that happened, like from the alternative of the alternative for Germany, the one remark they made was against Arabic and Turkish people, which are the biggest community here in Germany, especially in Berlin. And the other remark was that this attack is the fault of Merkel's refugee politics. And this comment, which I like expected to be more like en vogue after all the critique from the CSU, the partner party from the CDU, and the Alternative for Germany, that this claim would get more audience, was totally rejected, and everybody said, okay, this is not appropriate to say Merkel is in any kind like responsible for that.
Oh, well, that seems fairly positive, actually, I would say. But what about the Muslim community itself? I was reading some reports that they were expressing concern. In recent years, there have been indications that there might have been more attacks. What, as far as you can tell, how have they been reacting, and how has the danger to them increased, or has it changed at all, or I think more or less the same?
Yeah, it's a very difficult question because I mean, Berlin is the third biggest Turkish city of the world, for example. So it's not easy to say the Muslim community or something, but there are different parts. There were demonstrations from a certain part of the Muslim community, and who demonstrated against terrorism, like preemptively. Just in case a new wave of anti-Muslimic racism starts. I saw other like video reports where people with a veil just said, well, that's bad, but I don't care because like I don't want to live in fear. And I think this is like the common opinion at the moment in Berlin, that the people are aware what happened after 9/11 and that we have also in Germany this huge wave of anti-Muslimic racism. And nobody is really interested in having this again here. So people try to behave calm. Of course, there's grief, always depending how close you are to the victims of this attack. But it's not, yeah. I think it's not really necessary at the moment. I mean, when I heard this report, I thought, okay, these are very elaborate statements like, I'm a Muslim, I'm not a terrorist. But for my part, I mean, I can understand that Muslims in Berlin, or especially in Germany, say this now. But as long as nobody accuses them, I will not say that. So for me, it's a bit ambiguous, but I can understand this. But I think the left wing and especially the anti-fascist forces are very strong here. And in case there is a wave of anti-Muslimic racism like another one, people will stand up and try to prevent this from happening. Sorry for my English.
Okay. Well, I think that basically covers it so far, but we'll of course continue tracking what's happening in Germany, especially with the elections, like I said, coming up next year. So, but thanks so much, Lars, for joining us today.
You're welcome. All the best.
And thank you for watching the Real News Network.